Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address to the United Nations General Assembly was a dramatic display of defiance, delivered amidst unprecedented global isolation. Facing mass walkouts by delegates from over 50 countries, the Prime Minister used the platform to issue a stark ultimatum to the remaining Hamas leaders. Free the hostages now. If you do, you will live. If you don't, Israel will hunt you down. This message was not just for the diplomatic community. In an unprecedented move, Netanyahu confirmed the speech was broadcast directly into the Gaza Strip via military loudspeakers and reportedly through hijacked mobile phones, targeting the remaining 48 hostages and their captors. Furthermore, he explicitly rejected the growing international movement to recognize a Palestinian state, calling the two-state solution sheer madness, and excoriating countries that had recently done so. The speech served as a non-negotiable declaration that Israel would finish the job in Gaza, prioritizing the total elimination of Hamas and unilateral security control over any diplomatic compromise. Analysis of reasons and consequences. Reasons for the defiance. The Prime Minister's aggressively uncompromising tone was primarily driven by a confluence of domestic political necessity and strategic international pushback. Domestically, Netanyahu leads a right-wing coalition whose survival is contingent on pursuing the war's maximalist objectives, destroying Hamas and ensuring overriding Israeli security control over Gaza. The defiant speech was crucial for shoring up his base, reassuring the Israeli public traumatized by the October 7, 2023 attack, and reinforcing the narrative that Israel stands alone against global pressure. Internationally, the speech was a preemptive strike against the tide of diplomatic and legal action, including an International Criminal Court arrest warrant and allegations of genocide being weighed by the UN's highest court. By framing criticism as moral weakness and the recognition of Palestine as a reward for terror, Netanyahu sought to delegitimize his critics and reposition Israel as a super Sparta fighting barbarism at the gate. The direct broadcast into Gaza was a sophisticated psychological warfare tactic aimed at fracturing Hamas's resolve and sending a message of hope to the hostages. Consequences of the address. The immediate consequences of the address were a marked acceleration of Israel's diplomatic isolation. The mass walkouts by delegates from traditional allies underscore a profound fracture in Western support, which may translate into tangible economic and political pressure, such as the potential imposition of sanctions and tariffs being considered by the European Union. By unequivocally rejecting a two-state solution, Netanyahu has effectively frozen the diplomatic track, making any US-led post-war planning, which relies on a path toward a reformed Palestinian Authority governing Gaza, significantly more difficult. Crucially, the uncompromising ultimatum to Hamas is likely to harden, rather than soften, their negotiating stance regarding the remaining hostages, ensuring a continuation of the military conflict until one side collapses or outside intervention dictates a settlement. The speech reinforced the narrative of an endless war, providing no off-ramp for de-escalation. Prediction and solutions. Prediction. In the immediate term, the speech signals a continuation of the military offensive in Gaza, likely prioritizing the defeat of the remaining Hamas battalions and the rescue of the remaining 48 hostages. Netanyahu will likely face increased scrutiny and pressure from Washington, particularly concerning any moves toward unilaterally annexing parts of the West Bank, a step his coalition partners advocate, but which the U.S. leadership, under President Trump, has explicitly opposed. Internationally, Israel will continue to be mired in legal battles at the ICC and ICJ. The diplomatic consensus for a two-state solution, while rejected by the Israeli leader, will become the central organizing principle for all other major powers, creating a persistent, existential policy conflict. The political status quo is unlikely to shift until either the war concludes or domestic political turmoil forces a change in Israeli leadership. Solutions for de-escalation and future stability. Addressing the deadlock requires a multifaceted approach that bypasses the maximalist red lines of both Hamas and the current Israeli leadership. Hostage-first framework. Create a highly focused, internationally mediated channel, possibly led by Qatar and Egypt, to secure the release of the remaining hostages immediately, delinking this humanitarian priority from the complex final status of Gaza. Multilateral governance transition. Establish a time-bound, multilateral framework involving Arab states, such as the UAE and Saudi Arabia, and key Western allies, US, UK, and France. This group must plan for a non-Hamas, non-Israeli transitional governance structure in Gaza, focusing on reconstruction and aid distribution, potentially backed by an international stabilization force. Empower a reformed PA. The international community must invest significant political capital and resources into building a unified, reformed Palestinian Authority, capable of administering both the West Bank and Gaza, making it a credible security partner that can eventually govern independently, thus offering Israel a viable long-term interlocutor for peace. Leverage external pressure. Western nations must coordinate diplomatic and economic leverage, threat of sanctions, trade agreements, to ensure compliance with international law and prevent further actions that preclude a future Palestinian state, such as settlement expansion or annexation.